Hi, friends. We had so much fun diving into Midnight Sun again. I thought it appropriate to do the same thing with Mothership 10 Moonlit Seduction. Moonlit Seduction for sure in my top 5. Top 3, I'm juggling between a few, and I had made this comment a pin one in the Midnight Sun video where I had said I feel subversive. Although it was my favorite because I had first time buyer's bias 100%, Midnight Sun by far is my most favorite Pat McGrath palette out of all the current 11. But I truly feel Subversive is her best. That's just my opinion. I believe Subversive contains iconic moments when it comes to the Pat McGrath Labs brand, and it truly embodies its artistry. So every time I open Mothership 3, it's like I am here in Pat McGrath Labs brain. I'm in Mother's brain, fully deep in the brain. And the other palettes are beautiful, right? We saw that after Midnight Sun, where we had Divine Rose 1. After Divine Rose 1 hit the market and the brand saw its success, it was just pink on and out. I will argue that Divine Rose 2, Mothership 8, is superb. Out of all the pink palettes, or the strictly Divine Rose ones that we've seen, even from Utopian Dream, Divine Rose 2 is phenomenal. If you're gonna do a pink palette, you gotta do it like Divine Rose 1. And then we saw Utopian Dream, which I like. I like Utopian Dream. It's a lot of fun. It's whimsical. It's a mood, for sure. But with Moonlit Seduction, I thought it funny. Initially, when it released online, as the announcement was like here from Mothership 10, people were underwhelmed with the photos. They were like, it's cool toned. I like that. We didn't know where we sat with Mothership 10, but when you got Mothership 10 in person, when you decided to still buy it, that's when I realized I didn't buy the palette. It was sent to me in PR. It got my initials on there. I know, just wanted to put that out there. If it's your first time visiting my channel, hi, welcome, make yourself at home. When I opened Moonlit Seduction for the first time and used it, it just smacked me in the face in terms of how well this palette is curated. Yes, you have your cool tones mostly dominated by the metallic and blitz shades, but you have like these plum and rose moments in the mattes, and how everything is cocktailed. Oh my gosh. And I can't remember, my apologies. One of our fan members, we just had such a lovely exchange on the comment section describing Moonlit Seduction, what it does for us, the colors, the textures, the undertones. And it's hard to express in words what I think about in regards to Moonlit Seduction is it's Pat's most like whimsical fairy tale palette. That's what I'm getting at. Where one of you had said, and I think you nailed it, that Midnight Sun is giving you like fall witchy vibes, right? Like Halloween, but sophisticated, okay? Moonlit Seduction for me is putting me like in Cinderella land. I can't explain why. Maybe it's the lilac shade, maybe it's the cool tones, but my goodness, this palette is exceptional. So I wanted to dedicate a video to it. I don't know how my title is going to be right at the moment. I don't know if I'm going to present this as like Mother's best, coolest palette, because I got to give it to Subliminal. Subliminal for the cool vibes, because Subliminal for me is also exceptional when it comes to presenting the more cooler tones from Mother's eyeshadow palette portfolio. But my gosh, Moonlit Seduction. Divine Rose 1, yes, is giving you the cool girl vibes, but it's a little more dull. I think that's why I prefer Moonlit Seduction over Divine Rose 1. Even though it's cool tone, it's far from dull. You know what I'm saying? Now that the video is set up, you've grabbed Moonlit Seduction, or you've gathered shadows that mimic the palette, that kind of replicating what's going on in Mothership 10. It's time for you to come in a little closer to start these looks. That's enough. I still need to buy the primer, so as of now, just relying on my Lancome concealer. Would not usually use concealer for eye looks as it is far too emollient in order to provide that longevity. But it is easier to paint on between several shadow looks. So that is what we shall be doing today. I feel I gotta change this again. What do we got? All right, that's better. Following the light changes throughout the day, it's a little challenging. I am, though, embracing the fact, although I'm not a fan of summer, yes, I am a fan of the longer daylight hours for sure. And my filming schedule definitely will need to change when we head into fall winter. I could start filming noon, 1 p.m. Eastern and be fine. But when it gets to autumn winter, looking more like a 10 a.m., 11 a.m. start, you know what I'm saying? How can we simplify this palette? Well, here's the thing. You have your rose colored matte and your plum one and your more like plummy black brown matte here. Extreme Nocturne. Let's say you didn't want to go in with Rosewood Romantique. You wanted to keep it more strictly cool. So this is where we have to fine tune which brush we use. Let's first go in with Bronze Devotion. Bronze Devotion, this beautiful like taupe colored bronze. My goodness, kind of reminds me what's going on in Midnight Sun, except I think this is more like not as, maybe the one in Midnight Sun is a little cooler. Taking our beloved Jumbo Blender, going in with Bronze Devotion first on the lid. Gonna whip that across on the majority. Now on my skin tone, this will show up more as a medium shade. I wouldn't solely rely on this color. I could as one and done. I would like a little more definition on my lash line, and that's where I would use Extreme Nocturne to provide that intensity. But instead, I'll use Extreme Nocturne in the lightest manner. And I say that because if you go in with like a goat hair brush or even a synthetic brush, it might apply too much product and give you a little too much smoke. If that's what you want, totally fine to do. It's important now that we choose a tool, a squirrel brush precisely. Wengas Namapo. We haven't heard that one in a while. This is from his original set. It's nicely tapered here, and because squirrel won't pick up as much as goat, I have a little more control over the application. So I'm softly whipping this color through the crease, and you see it provides just the right amount of smoke to create that contrast throughout the crease. And I'm tapping more here on the very outer edge of my lid. You very well can go in with Extreme Nocturne first. There's no wrong or right way to approach this. Sometimes I just like to go in with the metallic first because it kind of sketches out where I want the matte to go thereafter. But if you feel it easier to apply the matte first, then that's totally fine. Make sure you have your concealer brush on standby. You know, if you gotta tap around the edges, if the blend went out too far. Let's pick a smaller brush here. Same thing with Extreme Nocturne, but I'm pulling it on the lower part of my lash line and bringing a little more here on the very outer edge of the lid so that there's a nice transition from the bottom lash line to the top. And then I could take the same brush from where I placed more shadow on the outer lid, and I could further shape what's going on here with Extreme Nocturne. Let's wipe Wayne's brush and quickly take that through the very top edges so it can have a nice blurring effect. Inner corner, we could be very simple. Skin Tense Glow. Skin Tense Glow is like a more cooler leaning champagne pearl shade. I think wonderful to pair with Bronze Devotion for sure. This is, again, a very simple eye. I wanted to start as simply as possible because sometimes we get distracted with like the whoa shades and not realize that we could actually simplify Moonlit Seduction as far as we can if we wanted a more classic glam eye. If you wanted to invite a little bit more, oh, we gotta get the intensifiers, hold on. We most certainly can invite one of the Blitz shades. Astral Lilac Aura is calling my name. So punching in a little bit of the Astral, or excuse me, intensifiers. Taking Astral Lilac Aura, not a ton because this is a flaky texture. Yeah, not a problem. You gotta be real careful with how you punch this in. I like to punch in and up, basically hitting the area where I applied the Intensifies primer, and then you can gently pull it over, a little bit of Extreme Nocturne here, just so you have that continuation. And I think that's lovely, right? It just provides that brightness effect for the eye because it's like very subdued up here, right? You could even take a little bit over Skin Tense Glow, right? Not so that Astral Lilac Aura is completely taking over the inner corner. It's just trailing from where it mostly dominates the eye look on the inner lower lash line, but then curves up and into Skin Tense Glow. And while we're here with this shadow liner brush, this is from Tao House, by the way. If you wanted a more outline description of all the brushes, I'll make sure to link that video down below and up in the card. The reason why I went in with the metallic first and then the matte is because the metallic is going to take away a little bit of the color. I did that on purpose so Extreme Nocturne won't appear intensely, right? If you wanted more intensity, then I would then go in with Extreme Nocturne first to build up the color. Now here it is, all in its glory. I will apply lashes and we'll move on to the second eye. However, Blitz Venus, if you just wanted a little bit more twinkle, tapping and taking it right at the center base of the lash line. This will bring a little more reflectivity and shine to Bronze Devotion, right? It's just gonna have that extra oomph. Don't mind me. I'm just shaping. We're just shaping Extreme Nocturne. Okay, we gotta make sure everything looks smooth and finished. Fantastic. So let's go into the other end of the spectrum so we can truly recognize the contrast. Going in with Rosewood Romantique first, just so you can see like, whoa, these eyes come from the same palette. Rosewood Romantique, this shade here, with a goat brush. This is my Hakuhodo J5522 classic. Whipping that on the outer part, my goodness, taking it all the way through, in and out. This shade definitely packs a punch, right? And you can see that the theme of the eye has already been established. Like, this is going to be the rose eye. And I typically like to wear my rose colored matte super blown out. If you have smaller eyes, you could keep it tighter to the crease, or even if you do and you like that look as well, you most certainly can be a little more liberal with the application. Like, I purposely take it higher towards the brow because I feel, you know, this color is appropriate to do that with. I'm just winging it out here. Now, in terms of the lid, I gotta go in with Platinum Dusk. Platinum Dusk is absolutely rude. It's like this gunmetal shade, but I don't know, there's like a slate blue tinge going on. I can't quite place why I find this shade just devastatingly gorgeous. And look, I'm pairing it with a warm rose shade and it just works out. I don't know why. I don't know why I appreciate this combination. I did this, I forgot on which, probably was maybe in my original video, I can't recall. But combining Platinum Dusk with Rosewood Romantique, when you would see these shades and not think they pair well, they most certainly do. Now, I know this might not be for everyone. I understand, but ooh, I think it's pretty. Carving down with Rosewood here, but also following up with Platinum Dusk. I'm using the same brush, but I feel that it would have been a better idea to use a smaller one. There we go, a smaller pencil brush here, following through from the lower lash line to the upper. Yes, yes, yes. Going crazy on the inner corner, 100%. Back in with the Intensifies, top and bottom. I gotta go with Astral Gold Lust. Astral Gold Lust, stop it right now. Or it could be the lilac shade, for sure. If you still wanted to keep it cool we can, but having both the cool and the warmer on the same eye, you can't go wrong. I'm just so tempted. I gotta do it. Wrapping Astral Gold top and bottom. So not only will that be taking over the inner corner, it will also take over the lower inner lash line. And I want to be careful here and carving out. I actually want to carry the astral shade into Platinum Dusk. So you see that arc? Ooh, I love doing that on the inner portion of the lid. It's such a great region of the eye to layer metallics and specialized shades, because that part, like when you go like here, you can see it. You can see it. Going back to the first eye and tapping in on, or I should say, a little more of Extreme Nocturne. Just a little more. Just want to create that smooth gradient. Yes? Yes. Time for some lashes, and I'll be right back. And here is round one. We have a more exclusive glam eye, a peak of the Astral Lilac shade on the lower inner corner. And on our second eye, although we started with the Rosewood shade, I just adore how smoky it looks despite how the gradient goes from like that gunmetal shade into the warmer rose. I'm telling you, it just works itself out. It's extraordinary. I love that combination. And overall, just especially the lilac shade, my goodness, it's hard to pick up the lavender color on camera, but in person, it's so lovely. It's so lovely. You can definitely detect that lilac shade on the lower inner part of the lash line. And then Astral Gold Lust is stupid shiny. My goodness. Platinum Dusk though. Platinum Dusk. Whew. Let me stop gushing. Get this off so we can get into our second round. I'm racking in my brain about what we should do. I should have looked at my older videos, but it's so good. We'll see what we can do. Maybe we'll start with a matte, but just use one of the astral shades for our lid color. Sounds like a plan. I'll see you back here in a bit. Kicking off round two with Plum Cabaret. Just like how I treated Rosewood Romantique on the first round, carrying Plum Cabaret heavily through the crease, whipping it out, purposefully creating this blown out effect, right? So if you need to go in with a smaller brush, maybe build it carefully, unlike what I'm doing, totally with whatever you're most comfortable with. I just want to start kind of dominating the crease with this color, right? Really building it up, taking it out. If you wanted, taking a smaller brush and a little bit of rosewood just on the edges of Plum Cabaret to further increase the gradient, right? If you're looking to just dive deeply into these colors, by all means, go for it. Plum Cabaret now on the lower lash line in the same manner. Super hazy, as you can see, right? I'm primarily relying on this matte to lay down the foundation. Now, what you can do, several things before I go in one of the astral shades. VR Sextasy all over Plum Cabaret, done. That is like a classic combination, since this duochrome, as you see, has that plum base with the icy blue reflect. Here, I'll show you. That's what we're dealing with, right? Look at that shine. If you wanted to pair that color with Plum Cabaret, that's an easy way to go when dealing with Moonlit Seduction. But what I want to do is I just want to tap this all over the lid. I'm not using the wand because I don't want this to appear in an opaque way. I want this to be more water-like and translucent, so you can pretty much still see Plum Cabaret from underneath. And I think this best achieved with a finger tap, so you have the best control, and you could just lightly carry the astral shade through the crease, not super high. If you have smaller eyes, you could keep it lower. But isn't that just perfect? With a pencil brush, however, I do want to place some Extreme Nocturne here on the outer part of the lid. Not in a liner way, much like how we did in Midnight Sun, where we started with Taboo, slept on Astral Solstice, and then went in with Extreme Dusk on the outer corner. So I'm mimicking what we did on that eye or with Midnight Sun. So it's like the same blueprint, but with different shadows. A little bit here on the very outer part of the lower lash line. Yes. For our second eye, you saw how quick that was. My gosh. For the second eye, I do want to go in a little more classic for sure. So let's start off the look with Rosewood. How I started carrying that through the crease, super blown out, as I think this eye will be a halo one. With that said, we'll rely on Extreme Dusk for the smoky vibes for sure. With that, I'm taking my Jumbo Blender and tapping Extreme Nocturne on the inner and outer parts of my lid. I'm being very careful here. Now, I understand Jumbo Blender is a rather large brush for not a precise task, but one that requires careful blending. So we don't want the shade to overtake the crease, especially on the inner corner. I got some nerve. Let's take the smaller pencil brush here just to finesse the color on that inner arc, but it not climb too high. And with the pencil brush on the outer lid, I'm pulling upwards so we can mimic that angle that was established by Rosewood Romantique. And now carefully taking Extreme Nocturne through the crease, right? So we could bridge those shades together. Pulling on Rosewood here on the lower lash line, and definitely with a smaller brush here with Extreme Nocturne. No, if we're gonna put Extreme Nocturne on the lower inner lash line, I think that's gonna close the eye too much. Even though I have a lot of real estate, I think that'll be a little too tight for me. And I also want to reserve that spot for another shade. So as promised, halo time. But first, let's set up the stick, okay? Or set up the center lid with the stick, the Intensifies Blitz Venus. Let's tappity tap right here on the center. Incredible. Incredible. I could use a finger to refine the top edge, but instead I want to go in with the flat shader so I can pat right to left, right? And carefully spread the shade so that it doesn't look like it's coming to an abrupt stop. However, still will take a little bit of Extreme Nocturne and dab on the edges of Blitz Venus, because I think that's going to read smoother on the eye. It won't look too blocked out, and it might require you to hop back and forth between these two shadows in order to create that smooth effect. So just take your time, right? Tappity tap. There we go. Piff. Inner lower lash line as promised, using another shade. And I think we should go in with VR Sexy. What an amazing opportunity for this duochrome to make itself known, right? Naturally, I understand you would want to place this color on the entirety of your lid, and we have a third round to do that, so we most certainly can visit that possibility. But to have it here also on the lower inner lash line, because this icy blue reflect is so gorgeous, it has lovely effect here on the lower inner lash line. And I'm pulling a little more of Extreme Dusk. Let me pull out my pencil, my Energy pencil brush. I'm just refining the juncture point here. And this is what happens when I do multi-look videos. This part of my eye gets rather dry, so it's hard for shadow to stick. So I just try to refine that blend so it looks smoother, right? We're not going for perfection here, okay? And for the inner corner, ooh, you know what? Since we got a lot going on here on the inner lower lash line on the lid, I think Skin Tense is a way to go. It's not gonna be as bling, 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 but I do think a fitting choice to balance everything out in terms of the effect. You most certainly could go in with Astral Lilac. I'm just saying, you know, if you want it blinged out top to bottom, do it. Taking a smaller brush here with Rosewood, just want to smooth this out a little bit. There it is. There it is. All right, time for some lashes and I'll be right back. Second round, and my apologies, I failed to apply an inner corner shade on our first eye, so I decided to go in with Blitz Venus off camera. I also pulled out Extreme Nocturne past my lash line a little bit more, just refine the smoke. Happy we went with Blitz Venus on the inner corner, but the halo eye with Blitz Venus on the center now, between Extreme Nocturne. And again, I think it's superb how we have these rose plum mattes to carry the more cooler metallics and even just the cooler matte here in the palette. It works out. It doesn't seem too out of place. And I think it just balances out the cool and the warm. Even though the rose and the plums are in here, they don't run super red. And I understand that might depend on your skin tone, 100%. So speaking for the medium tan part of the spectrum, it doesn't run super red on me, which is why I feel it works out when I pair these mattes with the cooler metallic shades and even the astral shades. I adore how Astral Lilac looks on the lid. I'm happy we didn't use the wand. You most certainly can if you want, again, more of an opaque delivery of that shade, but I just wanted more of like a twinkle effect on the lid so you could still see Plum Cabaret from underneath, and my gosh, it's just wonderful. So I think we're good to go for our third round. We'll definitely showcase VR Sexy in all its glory, and yeah, we'll see what we can do. I'm excited, so I'm gonna take this off and I'll be right back. Last round before we start making dinner. It's around that time. I think I'm going to start off with Extreme Nocturne in the same manner we did our halo eye, but perhaps with a softer brush, one that's still like a soft shader. Do I even have? I probably have such a thing in my other bag. Let me take my Sora Series brush from Hokuro. A little big, but I just want to first lay it down on the outer corner and whip it through the crease. This will be our first lay down shade for VR Sexy, because I do want to pair it with the black brown matte, right? I think that would be a far better match. Not in general, just for me, how I wanted to start off this look, but my goodness, maybe not a good idea to start off with that brush because it was a little too floppy. I needed more directness, so to speak. So I'm taking my Hakuhodo brush and just refining the edges of that blend, helping the color adhere better to the outer lid, because again, we removed shadow twice by now. Twice, 3 times? My gosh, I can't keep count. And I'm just tapping lightly in the pan and slowly building the color. So that's not too bad. That's not too bad. I'm going to keep it there. Go in with our artistry wand. VR Sextasy is on the flakier side. So we're going to press and lightly pull to get those flakes to adhere. And my goodness, there you go. Smaller shader to carve out, making sure the arc is a little neater, tapping around the border like so. Ooh, you know what I want to do? I want to take Platinum Dusk on the outer part, but I'm happy I went in with Extreme Nocturne first, just so that it kind of laid down the foundation a little bit and it'll be easier to navigate Platinum Dusk, right? And I'm just tapping and fluffing out, trying not to over manipulate the texture here. Yes, that's a lot of fun. We could also take our Wayne Goss brush. Again, it's squirrel, so it's not going to knock off Platinum Dusk. Platinum Dusk here on the lower part of our lash line. just to connect the dots. And also, I know this wasn't a great brush to use initially, but I just want to fluff in some Extreme Nocturne. To clean up the brow bone area, Skin Tense, lightly tapping here. I don't want it to appear super icy. You know what I'm saying? Just gonna whip that. That didn't turn out as well. You know what? It's not terrible. It's not terrible. Just lightly flicking here. Okay, that's fine. It's fine. Inner corner with the intensifies. Most definitely now going into the Astral Lilac shade. I mean, we saw it in action on the lid, saw it in action on the lower inner part of our lash line, and where it could also look devastatingly gorgeous on the inner corner. Pulling it over VR Sextasy, creating that beautiful arc. It looks very smoky here. I definitely carried it out. With that said, remember, have your concealer brush on standby. This will kind of help tap away some of the color. Yes. And then you could go back and kind of whip out a little more if you like. Super. Going on this side, I think I want to pair Luna Gold with Plum Cabaret. I think that'll be a lot of fun. Softer brush, however. So with Wayne's Plum Cabaret, I'll start first here on the outer part of the lid, and then I'll take it through. Since this is a smaller brush, it's not going to have that blown out effect like I had done in the second round, right? I want to purposefully keep this a little tighter in the crease. Plum Cabaret here on the lower lash line, not only the outer corner, but I'm pulling it all the way through. It's fine, we could always apply another shade there to overlap. And same thing we did with Astral Lilac, I now want to do with Astral Gold Lust. Not applying the Artistry wand, I just want to again create that water-like effect on the skin, and having Plum Cabaret first, I think it's just so lovely. I'm pulling a little more here of Plum Cabaret, just a little more. There we go. Yes. And now with my Surratt flat shader, tapping Astral Gold Lust here, so it can, there we go, appear a little more uniform, a little more Plum Cabaret on the outer part of the lid. Now you most certainly can apply Extreme Nocturne on the lash line if you wanted more contrast for sure, but because I'm applying lashes, I think the lash band will provide a little bit of intensity, not a lot because they are the Ardell Naked lashes, and the band itself, Marks, doesn't have, it's not a thick band, so it's not going to create, that super intense line. And also, because these shades are flakier, you might do the eyes first and then complexion and cheek afterwards. Bronze Devotion, I know it's not like a standout astral shade, but I think it's really nice to have here on the lower lash line with Plum Cabaret, so I'm carrying it through. And for our inner corner, we could do Skin Tense, but I think it would be lovely for Blitz Venus. Blitz Venus is just out of this world. The shine's incredible. I love like that champagne pinky tone. It's so lovely. Again, we want to fill up the inner arc of the eye with that shade. So when you lift like this, you can see that reflect. And I'm just tapping a little more Astral Gold Lust here on the center of the lid, really bringing forward that shine. Okie dokie. Let's apply some lashes and I'll be right back. And here is our final look using Moonlit Seduction. I have to say, between Midnight Sun and this palette, I do think Midnight Sun is far more versatile. It has earthier tones, and the theme is not as glitzy, right? I think there's a lot more glitz in Moonlit Seduction simply because 3 out of the 4 blitz shades, well, I would say all 4 blitz shades or specialized shades, 2 of them being the Astrals, right? You got your VR shade, you got your blitz shade here. Far more shiny and reflective than what you find in Midnight Sun. That's not necessarily bad or good. It really depends on the user. But that's why I find Midnight Sun to be a little more approachable, because Jubilee, although as a blitz shade, is a bake shade, it's not like in your face shiny. Blitz Violet Orchid has incredible shine and color in that violet tone, but it's not like, you know, super shiny like Astral Lilac or even the Gold Lust or even Blitz Venus. So that's kind of where you decide where you sit in terms of how you want your eye look to appear. Nevertheless, though, I do enjoy Moonlit's again, just more whimsical take and the cooler colors, the fact that you can combine a rose shade with the gunmetal one and it still works out. I think it's largely due to the undertones of the shades and how harmonious they can be with each other, even if you take them at face value and assume that it won't work out because cool and warm, it most certainly does. I could even take Platinum Dusk all by itself, right? And just kind of whip out the edges and that be my one and done shade. Maybe tap on a little bit of Blitz Venus or the Astral Lilac shade or even the Astral Gold Lust shade on the center. So I combine a lot in this video. I realized that I didn't break it down as much as I do with Midnight Sun. I think it's because the types of shades in Moonlit Seduction encourage me to cocktail a little bit more. I'm more inclined to combine a lot more shades in Moonlit than I am in Midnight Sun. Interesting. I guess it's because you have Blitz Violet Orchid as a standalone, you got Bronze Eclipse, kind of like what Bronze Devotion is doing in here. It's like a bronze gold moment. But Wicked Envy is like your one and done khaki olive. So I think they're more like one and done earthier tones in Midnight Sun versus Moonlit Seduction. Moonlit Seduction is more of like a jewel box for me, kind of how I think about decadence in a way. So I hope this video helped. If you have Moonlit Seduction, you love it, but you didn't know how to approach it, or you found that these colors, as beautiful as they are, were not as approachable to maybe than your other more grounded palettes. But again, all the looks that we created, they're so lovely, and this is what I experienced when using Moonlit Seduction for the first time. When I saw it online, I was like, that's pretty. But when I wore it, I was like, wow, this is really pretty. So let me know down below if Moonlit Seduction was your first Mothership palette, where it is on your ranking list. I'll see you down in the comments, fam. And until then, that is a wrap. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this video helped, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and maybe consider subscribing to my channel. And until then, I will see you on here again with another review tutorial Mothership palette video. But I would like to also work on my top 5 blushes, powder or cream. I should work on that list soon. Take care, and I will see you again soon.